whatever we got in front of the charts for you guys today, just to go over a recap what we actually ended up taking. Um, so you know, a drop of right, and this is just going back in replay mode. 300 points on today's session was definitely not on my bingo card. But again, you got to kind of stay on your toes, especially when you have what seems like all-time high loading. And I still think that it's loading in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens with NVIDIA earnings, and just, the market sentiment and how tech moves. Now with today, with this morning, I was a little bit limited on the chart time that I was able to have. So I really knew that any setup I was going to take was going to more than likely be within the first 40 minutes of the market open. So with that being said, I wasn't really necessarily looking to rush into anything. And definitely don't think we did. But obviously, if you saw the title of the video, you see that finally, I say finally, but it's only been 3 days. Our little 3-day winning streak does come to an end, and we start with a very, very small loss on the week, which is definitely okay. So let's go over execution. So immediately you get a couple minutes of just a move to the upside. And typically, again, and I talked about this in the last video, the first thing I'm looking for is clear displacement in one direction. And a lot of times, one of the first things I'm marking on a chart is going to be the first presented fair value gap. So and that's going to be on the 1 minute, because I personally execute on the 1 minute. I am still looking at other time frames, of course, for key liquidity levels of interest, or just to have a better, higher time frame understanding of what the trend might be. But for today, the first main fair value gap that was kind of printed post New York Open was this one, right? This is the first one here, and we got no retracement, right? So I'm gonna kind of continue going through, right? And there may be other small kind of imbalances here, but just as far as the notable ones on the 1 minute, all to the downside, you get 1, 2 on NQ. I think you get even more, honestly, on ES. But if I'm just going NQ, 1, 2, and this actually ended up being the third sort of kind of notable 1 minute fair value gap. But one thing you were seeing from 9:46 all the way until 10:04, at least from the candles I have that are shown in replay mode on my screen now, a straight drop down with no retrace, no leg up, right? You do get a couple one-off candles to the upside, but price was really heavy. Price was really heavy right out the gate. And we had seen that the last couple trading sessions. And I think Thursday we still found a move to the upside. Friday, still got a decent entry short. By now, if it wasn't obvious, I found it kind of hard for me to look for a long, at least at this point in the day. Time and how much time I had in the charts may have played a factor, but in reality, the bias was short, and it was short for a reason. How quickly we kind of came to that 511 liquidity point for me was definitely mainly what drove me to go short, right? Also, you think about the action that we had on the day, right? That big sort of range that we had to end the week last week. I was really expecting, coming into a Monday with no really major economic news pending, I was expecting really an inside day, because more times than not, that's what you get. So when I saw how quickly price came and delivered and actually shot and closed under previous low of day on Friday, for me, I was like, okay, hold on. This move down, this, I guess, what felt like a retracement, may have a little more continuation, may have a little more blood to go. So I was ready to get in short. And all things considered, I did end up taking something. I took something small. But my idea post 10 a.m. Was, I've seen enough displacement to the downside. I didn't have anything actionable to actually try to get into, but I was not going to try to long anywhere down here until price at least came to the halfway point of the range. I was really only looking for shorts, right? And how heavy it was, I was just looking to catch a retracement of a 1 minute fair value gap. And for me, the first one that we actually ended up getting tested was after a pretty bullish candle. And I'm going to move through here on replay so you guys can actually see this. The entry I took was at 10 a.m. So it should be here. Yep. Perfect. So really, right? And I kind of talked about taking entries that may present on ES on NQ. I will do that unless it's invalidated from some sort of divergence or difference in liquidity being swept on one side that's not on the other side yet. So if one's lagging a bit, usually I'm using that as confluence for reversal. So I'm not going to take a continuation fair value gap on those. But this one, anyway, I was, looking to get in NQ off of the touch here that we got on ES. So I did. I got in short right around 21,493. And that was right. 493. So I was right here. And I was risking 531.50. I was risking about 40 points here. So I was risking 40 points. And then my take profit, I don't remember exactly where my take profit was, and forgive me, I'm just trying to go through this just for the sake of, but I think it was something around a 2-to-1 kind of R, so it's probably somewhere around 416 or so. But there was a 1 hour, and I deleted my levels by mistake, liquidity level that I was targeting. But I was in at 493 here on the Q, risking right around 40 points, right? So it ended up being 531.50. And obviously, very quickly, within a couple minutes, we end up getting stopped out, right? So a couple minutes and it just keeps moving. When you get drops like this, especially in a bigger picture, a higher time frame, bullish market, right, which you are in majority of the time, and you're in a high time frame kind of bullish move, and you're taking a lot of liquidity down here, especially like on the 4 hour, where we were kind of moving, kind of sweeping, these wicks down here, coming down to this low of February 9th. At any point, especially when price has been consistently just dropping, when you get that leg, that buy leg, it is going to be a little bit violent. Price is already pretty volatile. So all things considered, I really wasn't surprised. It just kind of didn't give me enough room or time for, move down. The bias was right. I think it was just a little bit aggressive and just trying to get in there. But I understood that and I sized for that. So I did end up taking a very small L there. I think that the second half of the session really ended up looking better, right? So this that did end up losing, but that ended up being the only thing I took. I locked myself out on top step, and I continued about my day. But obviously, ultimately, you do end up getting the drop that I was anticipating, which is really just continuation of kind of that move that we had early on. Price actually almost retraced into what was if I go from low to high here, didn't quite go halfway up the range, but it got up there, kind of into this bottom, the upper end of the bottom kind of quadrant here of the range, and you do end up. Did you end up making new lows? No, it almost did. It almost did, but it didn't. It almost came to match previous low of day, and then obviously here. You get kind of a grind up, right? So I'm not going to go through all the price action, but all in all, very interesting day. Definitely wasn't expecting that, but still took a pretty good trade. I do think, honestly, if I had a little more chart time, I probably would have waited something out. But I sized for a loss. I was ready for one. We took a small one. So it's part of the game. we'll come back ready tomorrow, expecting a little more of the same. Honestly, I think one of these kind of range bound inside day sort of moves, if we're going to get one, maybe on the Tuesday, we get it right this week. Expecting that Nvidia earnings being post market Wednesday may bring some additional volatility. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So that's my recap for today. Did well as far as sizing and risk, right? Just making sure that when you do take those losses, because they happen, are not going to bust your account or mess you up mentally. And then as far as what we could have done better, realistically, once I started getting close to that cap as far as how much time I had on the charts and I hadn't taken anything, I was probably better off just locking out. But hindsight is always 2020. I think all in all, good execution. I think I understood the level of risk that I was taking when I did take this trade, and we sized accordingly for that. Obviously, we ended up paying a small fee. It's market tuition, like some people like to consider it. So, all in all, good session. Not too much to kind of go over because really I was only on the charts for 30 minutes. So if anything, just take away how to trade, and how to be a little more patient when you are seeing just a continued move in one direction with very little pullback. I guess a lot of times that's when FOMO kind of tends to set in the most, because you feel like you're being left out when you're not kind of getting some of those retracements, because no matter what type of model you trade, typically you're looking for some sort of equal or balanced action up and down for you to kind of start participating. So pretty good session. All in all, I'm okay with taking the loss. We'll see how the rest of the week goes. So I'll show you guys kind of where we're at for the month here. So starting off small red again, right? And I am noticing this is actually the first Monday I've been able to trade all of February. So it being that we had a loss there, I guess not too surprised. And typically my red days, I've had one a week on average this month, and they will come earlier in the week. So this was the second day, then the first day, then the first day of the week, and again now the first day. So something to keep in mind if this trend kind of continues. Maybe there's some adjustments we can make there, but kept risk small, locked out, and yeah. So look forward to tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do a live video either, but when I can't, like I said, I'll keep doing these recaps so you guys can kind of get into my head a little bit and understand some of my thought processes behind these trades, and for myself just kind of journaling and going through, trying to get better every single day. So I'll catch you guys later.